What is going on? Keith Irsay with you. That handsome, beautifully coiffed man right there.
What's
Is
going
Mark
on, guys?
Malusis. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. How are you?
Did you get a haircut this morning? Be
I
honest.
did.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can always. I think you and I have been working long enough together where I know, like the day of or day after that you've gotten a haircut. I can tell. I can always
Yes.
tell. You
I
look
did
good.
get one this morning.
You
Thank
look
you,
well
man. How's
rested
everything?
too.
Happy Tuesday. It's been a
Yeah.
week. How have you been?
Busy as always, running around like you are with our children and doing this and that and the other thing and working and grinding. And I saw, was it Gregory that got the picture with Saquon?
He did. He did. Donna
That
took the boys out to Giants training camp on Sunday, and they had a grand old time, and they were on the practice field, and they had a lot of fun. So they had a good time. I had work at WFAN, so I was doing a show, and Donna went over there, and Gregory got a picture with Saquon Barkley, his favorite player. So
Did Gregory ask him a question? Anything?
I don't know if he did. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so. I think he was just mesmerized.
I mean,
Yeah.
as he should be.
Yeah,
That's his
I think
guy.
and that's it. That's exactly right. That is his guy.
That's his
So,
guy. It's
he was
awesome.
all excited, all fired up.
Yeah,
We got a
really.
big Yeah.
I was just gonna say, really cool. Whenever your children get to meet someone that they idolize, really awesome.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And Saquon, as I've talked about, is as good as nice of a guy as you could possibly imagine. Like, he was really cool. Like, he saw Gregory, and there was some security. He's like, no, we're good, we're all
Yeah.
good, and went right up to Gregory, and Gregory asked, can you sign my jersey? And he did, and he's like, besides signing the jersey, let's get a picture, and was really cool with him, and just really gracious with his time, as we've talked about. I mean, he's this has nothing to do with the contract that he didn't get with the Giants. Has nothing to do with, he's a really high character guy, a high character individual. Nothing not to like about Saquon Barkley as a human being.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah, and you were about to say we have a massive show today. I mean, today's MLB Trade Deadline day. Got a bunch of trades that happened yesterday. I think the name that's hanging around right now is Justin Verlander. See what happens there as the full no trade clause. I know we'll do baseball a little bit later in the hour. But if you love reality TV, and you know that I do, and I know you dabble a little bit, you try to act like you don't, but you dabble a little bit. This Sean Payton, Aaron Rodgers, every aspect of this thing is fun for us as viewers. As simple as that.
Oh yeah, I do, and I do think there's kind of a method to the madness for Sean Payton.
Sure.
And I think the method to the madness is that. Well, I'll give you. What do you think the reason why Sean Payton said what he said?
He was trying. I mean, listen, I think there's two reasons. I think one is he really is trying to fire up his team, that is a brand new regime and that everything can be better. And I do think that the second part is, and I don't remember which former athlete said it, but the second part is he's setting himself up for, if things don't go right, it's not necessarily on me per se. It was everything what wasn't good before, and I'm just trying to fix what already stunk.
I'll throw one at you and see and tell you what you think. I think he said what he said to take pressure off Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think he said. I think Sean Payton did what he did to basically say that it wasn't a case of you have no idea what Russell Wilson was dealing with last year. He's not washed. He's not shot. He could still play. Sean Payton's well aware. He worked in the media last year, saw how Russell Wilson was getting mocked out. Let's ride, let's roll, whatever the hell that catchphrase was. Him making, discussing how the fact of when he's on an airline and on an airplane, he's always working and he's doing calisthenics in the runway, in the aisleway and stuff like that. So, Russell Wilson was mocked. The Subway commercial. I mean, from now to Kingdom Come, he was mocked all over the place across this country. So, I do think Sean Payton did what he did because I think, in essence, is trying to take the focus off of Russell Wilson, the pressure off of Russell Wilson, and giving him a little bit of a scapegoat for how bad it was last year with the fact of he had an inept coaching staff. Now, The thing that's surprising about it is, and listen, Rodgers is going to come to the defense of his guy, Nathaniel Hackett. And I think there was a belief that when the Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett last year, that Aaron Rodgers was going to follow suit and he was going to be a Denver Bronco and he wasn't going to remain in Green Bay. Well, Nathaniel Hackett's now the offensive coordinator with the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers, ergo, is now a New York Jet, as we've discussed time and time again. But it's not all that surprising for Aaron Rodgers to come out and defend Nathaniel Hackett, and there's a lot of drama going on. I think that's one thing that surprised a lot of people with what Sean Payton did, and maybe he's at a point in his career where he does not give a damn, is that Sean Payton, usually you don't see coaches going out there being overly critical of other coaches, and that's why he's gotten the heat afterward.
Yeah, I don't like the going up against the rules of the coaching fraternity, right? Like, I think that you don't bash other people in your own industry. It's kind of a unwritten or written rule, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a problem with what Sean Payton said.
In radio you do, but not in other instances. Yes.
Yeah. But I don't have a problem with what Sean Payton necessarily said. I don't think he needed to say it to the media. If he wanted to do that in the locker room to rah-rah sis boom bah his players, that's fine. If you want to rip apart the previous regime and say, and now you've got a new sheriff in town, and we're going to do this my way and our way. And God, like, if you want to do all that, like, that's part of the shtick. I get it. But to go in front of a microphone on national television and rip a man that is doing the same job that you are doing, coaching, I don't think it was necessary.
No, I don't think. Listen, I think it was wrong, but I do think the method is that he wanted to protect Wilson. I mean, I think that's it. I mean, I think it's an instance of that. He was looking. Whether it be pump up his team, whether it be tell you just how bad it was. Listen, Sean Payton. At this stage, he's getting paid a boatload of money. He was in the broadcasting for a year. Whatever it was, he left the New Orleans Saints. He's now in Denver. He's with the Broncos. I don't know if that was the job he necessarily wanted, but that's the job that he has in Denver. He's got a quarterback in Russell Wilson that a lot of people believe is probably over the top. Is not, and I think the analytics will show you the declining athleticism toward the tail end. Was he a member of the Seattle Seahawks, and you saw that a little bit last year as a member of the Denver Broncos. Do I think the Broncos are going to be better because they have Sean Payton as a coach? For sure, because I think Sean Payton's a better head coach, and he's shown it to be a better head coach or a program builder, and he's shown it in New Orleans, and I think he'll show it in Denver with the Broncos. I don't think there's any question about it. I just don't think he needed to go that avenue. I think the reason why is he said, well, I kind of forgot where. Well, no, he's smarter than that. Like Sean Payton, there's a method.
I forgot that I wasn't doing my TV job anymore. Come on.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness. I mean, that's it. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the point being is that he was out there and he wanted to make sure that he was protecting his player, and I think giving Russell Wilson a little bit of an excuse of, you guys don't understand how inept it really was here in Denver with the Broncos. He didn't make a mistake. There was a reason why he did it. He's from the school of Bill Parcells. There's a reason for everything.
Knew exactly what he was doing. I didn't like it, and neither did Aaron Rodgers. Let's actually hear from Aaron Rodgers. Hey, Aaron, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I love Nathaniel Hackett, and those comments were very surprising. For a coach to do that to another coach. My love for Hackett goes deep. We had some great years together in Green Bay. Kept in touch. Love him and his family. He's an incredible family man, incredible dad. And on the field, he's arguably my favorite coach I've ever had in the NFL. Just his approach to it, how he makes it fun, how he cares about the guys, just how he goes about his business with respect, with leadership, with honesty, with integrity. And it made me feel bad that someone who's accomplished a lot in the league is that insecure that they have to take another man down to set themselves up for some sort of easy fall if it doesn't go well for that team this year. Thought it was way out of line and inappropriate, and I think he needs to keep my coach's names out of his mouth.
Yes! Keep my coach's names out of your mouth. By the way, take the over week 5 for Aaron Rodgers in passing yards.
Yeah, whatever it is set against the Denver
over
Broncos.
900 yards, done.
but it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, like, it continues to happen. Like, it's amazing and we want to hear from you. What do you think the reason is? Sean Payton, click in the call-in button. If you're on YouTube right now, want to hear from you. Easy to call into the program here on Moose and Keith here each and every Tuesday on the Better Sports Network. Want to get your reaction. You're hearing our take on it, whether it be a case of, Aaron Rodgers telling you that Sean Payton's doing it because if the team has a down year, he's given the inherent excuse, whether it be promoting or pumping up his players, or whether it be defending Russell Wilson or giving him a little bit of a, him taking on the kind of wearing the black hat. So the focus is no longer on Wilson. It's now on Sean Payton. Got to remember, don't always believe coaches. Like, Sean Payton's smart enough to understand he said what he said for a reason. Now, he could go out there and backtrack and apologize and said, well, he didn't realize he didn't have, he had his broadcaster's cap on. Well, let's be honest. I mean, was Sean Payton all of a sudden last year when he was working for Fox, grabbing headline after headline, ripping players left and right? No, he was not, because he wanted to get back into coaching. So Sean Payton, when he was not doing that, was not creating those kind of headlines, did this go around. And I'm telling you, there's from the school of Bill Parcells, because he used to work for Bill with the Dallas Cowboys. And before that, he was with the New York Giants. There's a reason why Sean Payton did that. As Parcells used to say, you're almost a therapist on a day in, day out basis when it comes to your players, because not everybody gets motivated by different reasons or different rationale. I do believe there's a reason why Sean Payton did it. And I kind of believe the reason why I told you is that I think he's taking the heat now. The focus is on Payton in Denver. The focus is no longer on Russell Wilson. Gives Wilson a little bit of an excuse, gets people off of his back, puts it on the back of Sean Payton, and the head coach will clearly take that kind of pressure.
Moose, I want to flip this over to the New York Jets for a second, Aaron Rodgers. I want to word it this way first in a question for you, and then I'll give you a response as well. Over the first decade and a half of Aaron Rodgers' career, would you have kind of quantified yourself as an Aaron Rodgers guy?
Yeah, I love Rodgers. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I liked Rodgers, right? On the field. But off the field, some of the snarkiness, I think it rubbed some people the wrong way, right? Can we take this back a couple of months ago when he announced he's talking on the McAfee show. Remember, you and I were on the airwaves. We played a bunch of the sound, and I told you how likable he came off in that, and how much. I cannot get enough of Aaron Rodgers. Like, months later now, and this has nothing to do with me living in New York. We've talked about this. My father's a Jets fan. I'm not necessarily a Jets fan. It's not my team per se. I'd like to see them win, mostly for my father, but not for me. I can't wait I want to hear everything Aaron Rodgers says. I want to watch him throw a football. I want to see him hug his teammates. I want to see him put on the chain from Sauce Gardner. Like, everything that he has done this offseason has made me fall in love with the idea of Aaron Rodgers. I'm all in. All gas, no brakes, which, oh, by the way, can I give you another story I just remembered? So yesterday, drop Austin off at basketball camp over at Hofstra, okay? And something felt weird in my tire. So I get out of my car, I look at my tire, I get this big, huge bubble in the front of my tire. I'm like, that's not good. Luckily, they're the run flat tires, so it's safer. So I'm coming down Hempstead Turnpike, and I stop at one place. They don't have tires. Stop at another place. They're like, yeah, we can order it. It'll come in 2 days, right? Then I finally get to one. They're like, oh, yeah, we have it. And both of the guys working behind the thing are smiling at each other. I'm like, what the heck are they smiling at? And they were like, gotta ask, you're not Coach Saleh, right?
Ah, there you go. Very nice. Lookalike city.
Oh, my God. I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, oh, my God, you look exactly like Coach Saleh. Are we going to make the playoffs this week? And then both of the guys, for the next 20 minutes of me hanging out there, proceeded to just ask me Jets questions as if I was Coach Saleh. They refused to let that go. It was amazing.
That's great. Well, you do. I mean, and you've impersonated him on TV as well, so you've done that too. There's nothing not to enjoy that. I mean, back to back to the original point. That's
yeah,
great.
bring it back. I'm
Did
sorry.
you get your tires, by the way? Did you get
I
the
did.
tires?
Yes, they
Okay.
actually ended up ordering it for me, sent it to a place that was closer to my town, and told me to just drive slowly to get there, and I can get it done there.
Oh, good.
good.
Well, I'm glad everyone's safe and sound. That's the
Yeah.
most important thing. But that's a great story. Yeah, I think we're in the honeymoon phase. Like it's just everything is rosy, everything is great. It's amazing. I'm not telling you that Rodgers isn't being genuine. I think it's a freshening. We said at the time, Rodgers, it was a relationship that had grown stale. We've all been there at certain points in our lives, some more so than others, but we've all been there at some point in our lives where you have a relationship that just kind of has run its course. And I think that was the case with the Green Bay Packers, where both parties grew tired of one another. Green Bay was ready to move on. I think for all intents and purposes, even though Rodgers, made the excuse that, he would have been willing to go back to Green Bay, he wasn't playing nice at that time and, wanted the GM fired. I mean, it had just run its course, and everything with the Jets is honky-dory. I mean, it just is, to the tune of him giving back $35 million cash, having Dalvin Cook in there yesterday, trying to realizing that the Jets paid a pretty hefty price to go get him from the Green Bay Packers, that, he has that understanding unless they win a Super Bowl this year, he's making more than just a 1-year commitment here to New York, which we said at the time. Rodgers, this was not going to be a 1-year deal. Even if it was, you're going to take that gamble and take that stab. Now it comes down to what this team looks like, on the field when it's all put together. And that's where the pressure is on you. And I mean the collaborative you and Robert Saleh, and what kind of job you're going to do as head coach.
Yeah, I all gas, no brakes. I'm just
run those stairs, do all that.
I'm ready to be out there, hustle with the guys. I'm just hanging with the guys. We're ready.
I mean, Saleh's got to be the most jacked coach.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite coach, maybe ever.
No, can you think of a coach? I'm just trying to think about this.
Well, because
no, I'm talking about if you look in professional
Gabe
sport.
Kapler.
Gabe Kapler's one.
I
think Saleh's probably more jacked. Brindamore with Carolina.
Brindamore is like that old man strength, and like his arms are still cut up.
Like cut from a piece of granite. He has been his entire career.
Yep.
Like Brindamore's another one. I would tell you that Saleh is probably the most in shape coach that there is in sport. I mean, just Kapler's a good one. Kapler, Brindamore, Saleh. Is there a fourth we could think of?
Is that I'm trying to think, is there a basketball coach that is in great shape?
Would you go McVay?
I mean, McVay's in good. McVay was in better shape when he first took the job, if you noticed.
Yes, McVay.
I'm not trying to shame anybody, but he was shredded then, and now he's just in good shape guy.
Is there a basketball coach? I feel like there's not.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of a basketball coach that's in excellent shape. But so the thing about who?
Jason Kidd? I know I took us off tracks a little bit. I'm just trying.
Fine shape. It's fine. That's what we do.
No, but the point.
But Dan Campbell. Yeah, but he's not in. Dan Campbell. It looks like a strong man. He looks like he would enter a strongman competition and win. Robert Saleh and Shanahan's a thinner, good shape guy, but Robert Saleh and Brindamore. Robert Saleh is the guy that he probably takes his shirt off and has abs on top of abs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell is the guy that he walks around the beach with his shirt off and just massive chested like this. And you're like, my God, that guy is jacked.
Yeah. But he's right there. And now the pressure's on. Now the pressure's on. You got to go out there and win. Yeah. I mean, now the pressure for the Jets is you got to go get it done.
Yeah. I'm just thinking the forearms on Robert Saleh. That picked the golf picture, the golf polo.
Oh, it's just amazing.
It looks fake.
Yes.
And it's
not.
He's glorious.
By the way, can we just get into the nuttiness that's going on in Indianapolis?
It's ridiculous.
With Jonathan Taylor and their owner Robert and their owner Jim Irsay. Let's hear Irsay. Heather, I think we got it, right? Let's hear Irsay. Here's Irsay on And we know that running backs are undervalued in the National Football League. We understand that. Jonathan Taylor wants to get paid. Here's Jim Irsay talking about his talented running back. Take a listen.
I think we just talked and really, as you guys probably would not be surprised, it's something that's going to stay between us, Bob, but it was just a good conversation and again, we're just, hopeful and going forward, looking forward to a great season and hoping Jonathan's a big part of that. And so I think we had a good conversation. And well, I'm not going to talk about his situation, directly. That's something that Jonathan and I, have discussed and Chris will discuss with him and his agent. And I'm not saying, right time, wrong time, anything like that. All I'm saying is that, we go forward in the best way we can to have a great football team and treat everyone fairly. And, at this point, again, there's a lot of work to be done. And, it's not about talking about, individual contractual cases. It's about going forward. And, we know who's under contract. We know what we're going into this season with, and it's to get ready to go as soon as we can and pull together. So I'm not going to speak specifically about right time, wrong time, and those sorts of things. I can only tell you that I'm hopeful that we can pull together and everyone's going to be together going forward on this football team. I think that, it's something where he has to make sure, that he's healthy, and I'm not going to get into any, details about that. But, we expect that he should have an outstanding year. EJ Speed had a similar surgery, and he's doing really well. And it's not the type of surgery that you shouldn't have success with a lot. So at this point, Mike, it's not anything where it's early in the process, and we want to make sure everyone's 100% when they get on the field and get ready to go. So no, we don't have really any concerns. I think I'm hopeful that we all understand the situation we're in. We're all professionals, and we have to pull together to have a great season.
It's just ramblings. It's the ramblings of a very wealthy man. That is what Jim Irsay is. That is, and it's just ugly. Jonathan Taylor wants to get paid, and now they're talking about the fact of whether they're going to put him on the non-football injury list because of a back issue. Taylor then is going on social media denying that he's got any sort of a back issue, that he's A-okay. It's getting ugly right now in Indianapolis with the Colts. And I think they've got a pretty interesting quarterback and a young quarterback to get excited about, and Anthony Richardson coming out of Florida and seeing some of the throws that he's making so far in training camp. It's a shame. And then you get, Jim Irsay is like just,
he
gasoline
lost.
on the fire. Yeah, he sounds lost.
He sounds lost. And then he also, none of what he said there is going to help any situations. By the way, just, shout out some of the people in our chat. Bill Byers, I'm right. We got a bunch of people out there. Feel free, punch in on the YouTube site, and there's a link there if you want to call in, make your voice heard. Anything we're saying in here, want to chime in with, feel free and do that. The problem with Irsay is that, he just sounds like he's talking to talk. Like he's sitting in his cart.
Yes.
And it almost felt like, do I have the mic? I thought I had, forget it. It sounds like a microphone gets put in his face and he's like, okay, so let's just talk. I'll just continue to talk and you guys will all just continue to listen. It's very grandpa-esque at a party. And it honestly sounds like, the the end of the night party is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, he sounds like, yeah, I get what you mean. It was a whole kind of it was just a word scramble. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of what it looked like, and he was just saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff.
How do we feel about Jonathan Taylor in this situation, though?
I mean, I listen. I'm all supportive of guys trying to get and make as much money as they possibly can. I do, and so if he wants to be dealt and be traded someplace else, I mean, it isn't like, here's the issue you have with Jonathan Taylor. When the Colts are probably ready to win, his career is going to be over.
Exactly. Like if you're Jonathan Taylor right now, and you were traded to insert playoff team that needs a running back. And by the way, there's not that many out there that like
Miami.
I mean, he would look amazing in if he were to get traded to Miami, people will start talking about Miami as a potential.
Well, think about this. I mean, we've talked about how many times they're going to run the ball in Indianapolis. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's probably seen years of his career click by, and he's like, this team is not ready to win. They tried to win with older quarterbacks. They all stunk. Now we've got yet another coaching staff in place here in Indianapolis, and we've got a young quarterback who's raw in Anthony Richardson, who's got an unbelievable amount of talent. But how many carries am I going to get this year? 320, 330, 340, whatever it might be. It'd be great for fantasy football owners, but what is that going to do for the length of my career and my earning power down low? Does it put me in a better position to put myself in a spot where it's a more balanced offense, where they actually have a quarterback that has already shown that he can be a high caliber player, where it's not all going to be on me offensively. And therefore, not only can I be productive, but I also can lengthen out my career a little bit more as well. So I don't blame Taylor in terms of, saying, get me the hell out of here or pay me or whatever it might be. You're going to use as much leverage as you possibly can. And I don't think really Jim Irsay did anything there when he met with the media other than kind of just give you, like I mentioned before, a word scramble where you're left saying, what did I exactly just listen to?
All right, so is Jonathan Taylor in your opinion, do you believe that Jonathan Taylor will be the starting running back for the Colts week 1?
Probably, because I do think timing comes into play here, and I do think both sides are kind of entrenched.
Well, I mean, the other, caveat could be he could just sit out.
Yeah, he could sit out. You're right.
Yeah, so he could just be like, I told you my back didn't hurt, but actually it does.
Yeah, I mean, I do think probably he's there week 1. If you had to ask me, gun to my head, I think he's probably there week 1.
Yeah, I think he's on the roster for sure. I think he's more than likely playing as well. But if he were traded, do you think the Colts would trade him inside the AFC?
I'm always a proponent of, I'm looking to try and get the best deal I possibly can.
Me too. I'm with you, by the way. And I know
this whole
I just
idea
you,
of
but
I'm only going to trade him to an NFC team because I don't want to be haunted by him. You're going to be haunted by him regardless. It's the National Football League. If the Bills offer
the best package, then just trade him to the Bills.
Yeah, trade him to the Bills. I mean, that's it. I mean, if I can get the best deal, why would I take less of a deal just to trade him to the NFC? If I can get a better deal in the AFC, I trade him to the Bills. I trade him to the Dolphins. Say if the Jets came calling, I trade him to the Jets.
Bengals called and said we want to pair him with Joe Mixon and take a lot of the legs off of Joe Mixon. Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, I would do it, and so be it. I mean, that's it. I mean, if some team's willing to, pay Jonathan Taylor, understand the value of the player, and give you the capital that you're looking for in return, whether it be draft picks or player, whatever it might be, then I'm looking for the best possible deal.
Yeah, me too. I think there's too much made of the not going to trade him inside my conference. Now, I do actually, the one thing I will say is that I understand when like the Jets don't want to trade a star player to the Bills, Patriots, or Dolphins. Like I get that. Actually inside your division, and especially a player like Jonathan
I can
Taylor,
understand it to an extent. I can understand it to an extent. Well, but also the Jets have been a team that not exactly defined winning, and the Patriots have haunted them too. Yeah. So there does come other levels to it. I guess I would take the emotions out of it if I was running a team and I'd look for the best possible deal, even as uncomfortable as that might be. So in the NFL, we've got Payton, we've got the reaction by the Jets, you got Jonathan Taylor, a couple other quick stories, then we got to get into the MLB trade deadline as well. Take our first quick time out. Burrow's going to be out several weeks with a calf strain for the Cincinnati Bengals. Strange thing there is he strained the calf the day before, then they put him back on the practice field the very next day. To me, that doesn't necessarily make all that much sense, but suffers that calf strain the very next day after he tweaked it the day before, even though he had a sleeve on that calf. Thank God it's not a torn Achilles. He's not done for the year, but he's going to be out several weeks. Dalvin Cook still has not made a decision. He visited the Jets on Sunday, and Ezekiel Elliott still looking for work. He visited the Patriots over the weekend, saw him having lunch or dinner. Mac Jones was in attendance there, the picture that got tweeted out. So Zeke's still looking for work here in the NFL.
They'll both get a job. I ultimately think that Dalvin's going to sign with the Jets, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with Zeke. That one's a little confusing to me because as much as he still ran for 800 something yards and could still get you touchdowns, you've said it often, and you're right. He's not the same guy he was 2 or 3 years ago. He's just not. Doesn't have that burst anymore.
No, he wants to be a short yardage back. He wants to be what you remember George Rodgers.
Yes. Yeah.
Remember George Rodgers when he went to Washington, and I think he first started with the Atlanta Falcons, right? When he went to Washington, he became that kind of like short yardage back. And he maybe a little bit more than that, but that's really where Elliott is at this stage of his career. He's not going to be a bell cow running back. He doesn't have that burst anymore.
Yeah, I think Ezekiel Elliott is the guy that needs to be your short yardage back. And then if your starting running back is out for a week or two, then you plug him in, you let him play, full bore for a couple of weeks. But yeah, and if Zeke is willing to accept this role, he's going to have a longer NFL career too.
We'll come back, get into a little bit of baseball. It's trade deadline day. Nick Ferguson's going to join us a little bit later on the program. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the call-in button. We want to hear from you. What's your take on what's going on in Denver? Sean Payton's comments about Nathaniel Hackett, the reaction from Aaron Rodgers. Want to hear from you as well in terms of why Sean Payton did it and the other big storylines going on in the National Football League as we are sitting here on the first day of the month of August on this Tuesday. It's Moose and Keith with you right here, Better Sports Network.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format for fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe, I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you gotta have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
All right, Moose and Keith with you right here on this Tuesday, Better Sports Network. He's Keith Irsay. I'm Mark Malusis. MLB Trade Deadline, obviously, and Keith does expansive work on the MLB Network. We've chatted about that, Better's Eye, and does a great job there. And we're both huge baseball fans, and we've seen some of the movement here in New York, obviously, the Mets, and I just didn't understand the stunning, surprise, people being like, what are the Mets doing when they trade David Robertson to the Marlins? They stink. I mean, What exactly do you want the Mets and Billy Epler to go out there and do? Invest in the team this year? So they trade Robertson to the Marlins. They traded Mark Canha to the Milwaukee Brewers, and Max Scherzer obviously is now a member of the Texas Rangers, and maybe some big buzz about Justin Verlander, and maybe he gets moved at some point today, even though odds seems to be the lean early on here, unless I missed something in the last half hour, 45 minutes, Keith. But as of earlier this morning, that seems a little bit more of a long shot than anything else, even though Verlander voiced his displeasure about the direction of the organization. And at this stage of his career, obviously, in his 40s, he wants to be a part of a winner. For the Yankees here in New York, they stink. Let's be perfectly honest. I mean, they're a terrible baseball
I love
team.
this bam.
I mean, they're just terrible. Like, I don't understand. Last night, Domingo Germán was not healthy enough to start, but he was healthy enough to come in out of the bullpen and relieve against the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, that to me made
something was weird there.
Like, that made little to no sense.
Yes.
It almost seemed like the Devi Garcia start in the playoffs during the pandemic, out in San Diego, where, all of a sudden then it's Jay Happ because they wanted to try and catch the Tampa Bay Rays off guard. It's the Yankees are a bad, unwatchable, boring baseball team. It's one of the more unlikable Yankee teams that I can remember in quite some time. And if I'm Brian Cashman, I'm never a proponent of throwing good money at a bad product. And let's be honest. I mean, Judge is nowhere near 100% healthy. Seeing him run around the bases is painful. And I just don't see a way in which the Yankees go out there and spend, unless they can get Juan Soto on the cheap from the San Diego Padres. And that's not only an investment for this year, but for next year as well, because you'd have control of them. I don't see where the Yankees are going to go out there and do it, but I love MLB Trade Deadline Day. I'm going to be driving down to the Jersey Shore after the show with my middle son, Paul. Looking forward to that and flipping on the ML, be listening and see exactly what deals do come down later on this afternoon.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. All right, first I'll start with the Yankees. I think the Yankees, even more than not being likable, they're forgettable. And that's not something you normally can say about the New York Yankees. It's just a forgettable team. We live in this market, so maybe we know a little bit more of the names of the players and stuff, right? Besides Aaron Judge, on the Yankees, from a national standpoint, who's on that roster we care about? You know what I mean? Like from a national standpoint. Everyone knows who Stanton is. Yeah, Garrett Cole. You know who Stanton
Maybe
is. Rodon because he's failing, right?
Well, how about this? How about the report that comes out last night? The Yankees would be willing to move guys like Luis Severino, Harrison Bader. Let's see, who else was it? Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. They all. Who the hell is trading for
Nobody
Luis
wants
Severino?
any of those guys.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
He's absolutely awful.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to double back. You were talking about Verlander. So JP Morosi does a fantastic job with us over at MLB Network. He's as keyed in as anyone. He has mentioned, and a few others then have mentioned, the Baltimore Orioles are like the swing team for Verlander. If Justin Verlander was willing to waive the no trade clause, he can win with the Baltimore Orioles right now. That is a team that is built to win in the playoffs, except they need another starter. And it's all it really is contingent on, are we getting Cy Young Verlander from last year, or are we getting the first 2 months of Verlander this year, or the last couple of starts for Verlander, which has been pretty solid.
Yeah, the Orioles would be great, and they've got a robust farm system that the Mets could go out there and be able to pick a player or two, and I'm sure they'll pay the money down in order to improve that prospect as well, or prospects. And I do think Verlander's got more game or more tread left on the tire than Max Scherzer. And Scherzer was dealt for the Texas Rangers, and they paid down that $35 million to the two, where they then get Luis Angel Acuna from the Texas Rangers. So yeah, I would listen if he ends up getting moved, that would be surprising. And I think if you're the Mets right now, I'm going to worry about 2024 and my starting rotation in the offseason. Right now, if I could go out and get some guys that can help my team and help my organization in the future, I'm going to go out there and do it and move a guy that, let's be honest, the odds, even if they kept Verlander, the odds of the Mets winning a World Series next year with Justin Verlander are slim to none.
Yeah, I will also, I'll tell you, I give a lot of credit to Steve Gelbs' report the day after Scherzer got traded. And actually, if you read between the tea leaves, Gelbs, who works for SNY, covers the Mets. I believe it's year 6 or 7 for him now. And he had mentioned the day before that something was brewing because Scherzer's got Scherzer's kids or whatever the program is that he was, and he didn't speak that day, and he normally does. And then Gary Cohen sent it to Steve Gelbs, and Gelbs during the game said that this is not a shock. Now, the Mets were an excellent team last year, a 100-win team last year, and then they went out and moved pieces. Taijuan Walker, Chris Bassett, guys that were clubhouse guys that also played well, but clubhouse guys were gone. And that there was always something, and I guess it is a little bit easier to say now as the season goes on, but Gelb said there was always something there was something missing with this team, whether it was the friendship levels of things. And you actually said this too. Scherzer and Verlander were not best buddies when they were in Detroit together. Like, no, they weren't. So you wonder years later, were they still? And I'm not trying to say that Scherzer and Verlander don't like each other now. And I'm trying to say that they fractured anything in this clubhouse. But sometimes if chemistry doesn't vibe, wins don't happen either. And something clearly has not clicked for the New York Mets this year.
Yeah, no, well, of course. And they played so poorly on the field as well. The lineup was bad. They had downturn in performances. Buck didn't do a good job managing this team. They were short.
Alonso's batting 200.
Yeah, I mean, they were short an arm or two in the bullpen. I mean, that's the stunning thing when you listen to, and see the tweets from Andy Martino from SNY saying that there's a potential, that everybody is on the table, even, Pete Alonso. I mean, that would be stunning. I mean, for Pete Alonso to get moved by the Mets, I can't see a guy that, even though he looks like Dave Kingman this year up at the plate, I'm not moving Pete Alonso.
I have to believe it was the wrist, wasn't it? The wrist that he hurt.
Yeah, he got hit on the wrist in the Braves series.
Yeah, I have to believe he's not healthy. And I'm not willing to move on from a guy that coming into this season, I thought I had a long shot of maybe being an MVP. If you looked at his batting average, every year had gone up until this year. I thought he had a long shot opportunity to be the NL MVP.
Now, let me ask you, do you think the Angels, who acquired Cron and Grichuk from Colorado, do you think the Angels made the wrong decision not trading Shohei?
No, I don't. I mean, from a business standpoint, I'd be okay with you saying the word maybe. I don't. They're in striking distance of making the playoffs. If you want any chance of keeping Ohtani, you had to prove to him now that if the playoffs are within reach, we will reach for the playoffs. Do you know what I mean? I'm okay with it.
Of the moves that have been made already, Scherzer to the Rangers, Canna to the Mets. I mean, Canna to the Brewers for the Mets, Sewald to the Diamondbacks, and Savali to the Rays from Cleveland. Yeah. Which one do you think has the greatest impact?
Can I give you two? Are you okay with me saying two?
Yeah, give me two.
All right. I like Sewald to the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are proving that young team, we're going to go for it. Let's go get a closer that can really be a big-time bullpen guy for me. But then I also like Aaron Savali. The batting average against him this season is top 10 best, meaning lowest in Major League Baseball. He's not a frontline starter, but the Rays didn't need a frontline starter. They have McClanahan. They have Eflin, who's been amazing. They have some arms in glass now that are starting to get healthy. This is a Rays team that while the bats are starting to dwindle a little bit in what they were doing early on, all the home runs they were hitting, which felt weird being that they were the worst home run team or second worst home run hitting team last year. Then they turned to the best home run team this year. They were going to regress to the means at some point, and they did. If now they have a starting rotation where Savali is the number 3 or the number 4 starter, Rays are dangerous. Baltimore Orioles need to strike. Again, they need to do something today. whether it's Erod, whether it's, I mean, it should be Verlander. There are some other names out there. Stroman is no longer on the market anymore. The Baltimore Orioles cannot sit idly today. Like, if I'm an Orioles fan,
be
I am
aggressive.
going to be ticked off if 6 p.m. comes and goes Eastern time and we didn't do anything, if I'm an Orioles fan.
And that's where I think the lesson is that I think a lot of people can look at the Mets a year ago, where they were not aggressive at the MLB trade deadline and they had an opportunity to do so. And they sat and they worked on the boundaries of the periphery of the team. And instead of going out and taking a big swing last year, and it ended up costing them. They didn't hold on, win the National League East, and eventually got eliminated by the San Diego Padres in the wild card round. Let's head to the busy calls. Mentioned time and time, if you're watching us on YouTube, click in the call-in button. It's easy to do. Nick Durst is first up here on this Tuesday as we talk a little MLB trade deadline later on tonight, 6 o'clock. What's going on, Nick? Good morning, brother.
It's not a good morning. I'm very depressed with these New York Mets. Epler, he's making moves here, Moose and Keith, that he thinks he's going to be here for long term. You trade Robertson 4 days before the deadline when he's going to be the top closer. You get guys who, if they're lucky, they're going to come up in 2027. You mentioned the deadline last year. He did nothing. It's really Darren Ruff to be a Mets fan right now. You got all these great former Mets impacting chases out west. Lugo looks great as a starter for the Padres. Conforto, J.D. Davis, Wilmer Flores leading the Giants right now. Sewald, former Met, who they cast off. Travis d'Arnaud, DFA. I just don't know what's going on here with the talent.
Yeah, but that's not all on. I mean, it's not all on Billy Epler, and he can. I mean, don't you think though, Nick? He made multiple calls about David Robertson, and that was probably the best deal he was going to get. Like he's not an idiot. I understand people like to joke around that he's not particularly bright, but like I would imagine that Billy Epler did his due diligence, and it is a big collaborative effort right now with most organizations, especially when you look at the front office.
I just don't see why this deal wouldn't have potentially been here today. Why, there's teams that you wait over the weekend, maybe they get more desperate once they see you're totally open for business. I thought the timing was a little off.
For Scherzer or Robertson?
Robertson.
Yeah, I mean, hadn't you seen enough though? I mean, you're not surprised by the trades. You're just surprised that it happened 3 days too soon.
I'm surprised by the return because of when it happened. I think if you wait till the last minute, and not maybe the last minute, but teams are feeling the pressure here, like, oh my gosh, we got to do something here. You could get a better value than an 18-year-old. And one of them's a catcher. The Mets have a pretty strong catching farm system. How do you not get any pitchers at all? And why is Tommy Pham still on the team?
Well, I think
he might go today, yeah.
I mean, I think Tommy Pham's going to be moved. Maybe he ends up being a Yankee.
Hey.
Maybe he ends up being a Yankee. But aren't you excited, though, Nick, that after this season, there's going to be a new president of baseball operations?
David Stearns, yes.
David Stearns most likely is going to be the guy in the offseason. That's got to be exciting if you're a Met fan, no?
I think it's exciting because they needed him for years. They needed somebody for years because whether these trades pan or not, I think Epler now has proven that he can't be the guy to run the team with his stops in Los Angeles or Anaheim, you want to call it, and here, because that trade deadline last year, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. They had
That's the lesson. That's the lesson you learned. Last year, the Mets should have been significantly more aggressive at the MLB trade deadline than they were.
Yeah, and even this offseason, you could have signed JD Martinez for $10 million like the Dodgers. There was plenty of options there to fix the offense.
So I think that's a little revisionist history, though. And
the trade deadline last year was revisionist history.
No.
Well.
JD Martinez. You name an MLB personality that thought JD Martinez was going to have this resurgence. No one did. Everyone thought he was done.
I think most people could have seen him having a better year than Vogelback and Eduardo Escobar offensively.
6 of one, half a dozen to the other. I think it's similar. JD Martinez is older.
I just think the problem with the Mets this offseason was they tried to improve the offense with Correa.
Right.
It didn't work out. And then they said, well, Epler kind of had the mindset of, well, we won 101 games last year, so we're the same team. But we're not thinking they're the team that was swept by the Braves, couldn't hit against the Padres. And the thing that really drives me crazy as a Mets fan is that they have this great year hitting wise. McNeil wins the hitting title, everyone having career years. And then they decide, let's promote the hitting coach, Eric Chavez, the bench coach, when Glenn Sherlock was there. He's still on the staff. That just makes it weird in the clubhouse, if you ask me. The hitting has not been the same. And fundamentally, mentally, they're making tons of errors. So that was an under-the-radar move that I think actually impacted the clubhouse morale more than some people lead on.
You have a new podcast on the Believe Network, Believe in the Mets. All right,
Yes.
so is there anybody on the New York Mets roster that you would not trade?
Pete Alonso.
Good.
That's it.
Is he's literally the only player right now? Francisco Alvarez, you would deal?
Depends who's getting back. I would be open to dealing Alvarez just because you have all these other catchers now in the organization. So if you're going to get a great starting pitcher, you got to do it, because Epler has a press conference the other day. He says, we're not going to spend like crazy next year.
No.
So how are you filling out this rotation? There's nobody in the minors. So unless you're going to open the bank for Blake Snell, there's another pitcher coming over from Japan. Maybe they'll get him.
But they've scouted a lot.
Right. Or if you're not going to open the bank, that's actually signaling like maybe they're confident they're not going to get Ohtani now, because how do you say you're not going to open the bank? The guy is going to want $700 million.
Yeah, let's see how the season ends. And sometimes messaging does change, when situations do change as well. Remember, after the football season, the Jets were saying Zach Wilson's going to get an opportunity once again to be a starter.
He is. Isn't he going to start the Hall of Fame game?
Yeah, that's it. Right. In the regular season. Right. Nick, good job, brother. We appreciate it. Congrats on the new podcast.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Believe in the Mets. Check it out.
Let's welcome aboard right now Mike Corbett. He's going to join the program and talk a little bit about the MLB trade deadline.
Oh, out and
Mike, how you doing,
about.
buddy?
What's going on, guys? Moose, Keith, good to see you. Keith, I'm looking forward to beating you again in fantasy football this year.
Yes, it's tried and true each and every year.
Mike, how many fantasy teams do you put in? Do you participate? How many fantasy leagues?
Only 2.
Oh.
It's definitely whittled down over the years just because time hasn't exactly been as prevalent. But I have 2 good ones with 2 different friend groups that I usually do pretty good in, and certainly better than Keith. So,
I think I've won a championship more recent than you, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, 2 is a greater number than 1.
I'm just saying, I think I've won.
That is true. 2 is bigger than 1.
2 is bigger than 1. Let me tell you something. This baseball season's been very weird if you're a New York fan. And I went to the Yankee game last night, and I've lived through the years of when Bucky Dent and Stump Merrill and Dallas Green were the manager, and wow, that's the most anemic I've ever seen that offense. It's been rough. But just going back to what your previous caller was talking about with the Mets, I actually think the biggest sin this year was not going all in on the kids. I think from day one it should have been Alvarez behind the plate, Beatty at third, and when they actually called up Vientos, they should have played him every day. I think that's going to be, looking back, the biggest sin, that whether that was Showalter's call, Epler's call, or Cohen's call, I think that was the biggest sin for this year. I'm not saying things might have been like a substantially better in the aggregate, but I just think at least if you're going to commit to them. And I think that's probably, if I look back, was probably the biggest mistake the Mets made all year.
Keith?
Oh, I thought you were going there more. I actually agree. I would have gone with some of the youth movement here. I don't know if you could have gone all 3 of them. I would have had at least 2 in because this was a team that thought they were going to win a World Series. So I wanted Alvarez to be a part of this.
Listen, I don't know what the organization really feels about Mark Vientos, and there's when you look at when you look at Ronnie Mauricio, I think there's a hesitation that he's going to get exposed on the major league level. Alvarez was a guy that they clearly didn't trust early. They brought in Gary Sanchez, and then even thought about sending Alvarez down. He's going to be an absolute stud. Brett Beatty's got a lot to prove. I mean, that's it. I don't think you can go completely when you bring in Verlander in the offseason, Scherzer the year before in the offseason. I don't think you can go, honestly, Mike, with a complete youth movement with this team. I just don't. I don't think you can go. They were trying. The Diaz injury set a tone for this entire season. It's not an excuse, but set a tone when he went down with that knee injury in the WBC because he was an unbelievable story last year.
Yeah, I think he was kind of the catalyst of all of that excitement last year, and I think that as soon as he was gone, I agree with you on that one, Moose. I'm not saying total youth movement. I think in the least, Alvarez and Beatty should have been starting on opening day. Vientos was a call up, because of injury, but I mean, look, the truth of the matter is that you got to figure out what's next. Is Verlander going to go today? 50-50, flip a coin. I don't think he should, because no matter who else is out on the market next year, you don't have them locked up for next year. You have Verlander locked up next year, and I don't think you're going to argue with me that Snell or Urias or anyone like that is that much of a substantial upgrade on Verlander, especially with the way he's pitched in July. Add them as well, make them your number 2, but I don't think I don't think you're going to get the bang for your buck. If your philosophy is 2024, we're going to be right back at it. So that's my point of view. Pham should go today, maybe Narvaez, maybe Raley, but I don't think Verlander. I think you need that guy. And the truth be told, the guy wants to stay here.
Yeah.
The guy really wants to pitch in New York, and I think that does matter. It was kind of clear over the weekend Scherzer wanted out. I appreciate him. He legitimized the team that was just on the way up, but I think you got to keep Verlander. What do you guys think?
I would keep Verlander. If I'm Verlander, I don't want to stay. I want to leave. I want to go to the Dodgers. I want to go to the Baltimore Orioles. I want to go to a different team that has a chance to win right now because I'm older in age. But if I'm the Mets, I keep him.
I'd move him. If it's the right deal. If it's the right deal, I'd move him. Yeah, I would move him. I would. If I get the right offer, if I get exactly what I'm looking for. To play the point that you and Mike made, Keith, if I don't get the right offer, I'm not going to undersell Justin Verlander. But if I get the right trade offer, if I get the Orioles saying let's go all in, or the Dodgers, or say the Astros, you had Dusty Baker saying, yesterday he's a little bit forlorn by the idea of all these other teams making moves and the Astros aren't in on anybody. Say he ends up back down in Houston with the Astros, and they're able to give you something that you value long term. I'd move.
I think the Astros are the ones that don't have the.
They don't have the prospects.
Though. I think that's the problem.
Right, that's the issue.
I think if he's going anywhere, it's probably either LA or Baltimore. Yep. I just don't know if again, what are you going to get in return? Is that person going to be major league ready in a year or two? I think that's the things you've got to think about. Or is that someone you can then flip and put into a trade for someone else for pitching over the offseason? I think that's the question, and I'm really glad none of us are Billy Epler right now, because I think he's got a really tough decision to make. I'd keep him. I don't think you're going to get the bang for the buck.
Well, Mike,
Corbett, before we let you go, you're out and about in the city. What are we eating today?
What are we eating? Well, what are we eating on Saturday? We're eating Rodizio.
We are getting most we're doing a little friend get together. We do our annual. We go to what are they called again? The
Brazilian barbecue.
Brazilian steakhouse.
Barbecue. Yeah. They come out with the sticks on the meat.
Yeah.
We tell them keep loading up the plate. It's a wonderful thing. And then we do it every once or twice a year as friends, because we don't get together as much as we used to be able to. But looking forward to that.
Yes.
I'll report back after we have.
I want to enjoy those meat sweats. All right, Mike.
Oh, so many meat sweats.
All right, see you, buddy.
Take care, fellas.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, MLB Trade Deadline. We'll come back. Who doesn't love a good Brazilian steakhouse? It's great. It's fantastic.
Another guy that will be going to that dinner that Scott Miller from one of your producers at FAN. And
I love Scott.
Yep,
I love
Scott.
Scott.
Be there too. Yes,
Scott's a good man.
Yeah.
We'll come back. We'll get into a little BS detector. Nick Ferguson's going to join.
I think
us.
we're gonna before we do BS detector. Let's do our baseball lineups.
Yes,
we'll knock out a baseball lineup. Yeah,
correct. We're going to do our real-time sports pick'em, a little BS detector, some other things to get into as well. Nick Ferguson joins us at the bottom of the hour. It's Moose and Keith with you. An hour down, hour left to play with, rolling right up until high noon on this Tuesday. Better Sports Network.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well. Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only 2 wide receivers or if you're drafting 3 wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys may be more value because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're in the middle of a draft and you just notice that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player, because typically this player isn't going to drop. The average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy isn't my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
All right, we hit the 11 o'clock hour. It is Moose and Keith with you. You're hearing music or no?
No. But I always have music in my head.
Oh, there you go. I was like, my earphones off? No, I was not hearing music at all.
No, I was driving to Brooklyn on this weekend. On Sunday, I had just Alex. He had a basketball game, and I told Alex, and it was all the clean versions. I was like, we're listening to nothing but Brooklyn rap music on the ride in.
I got a
Biggie, Jay-Z,
I have like a 3-hour and 45-minute drive after today's show. It's beginning about 1 o'clock today.
Yeah.
I gotta listen to some good, clean music because my 8-year-old's gonna be in the car.
Yeah, you should definitely bump some Eminem. You guys just rap along with Eminem together.
Yeah, but it's not clean.
There's clean versions.
Yeah, it's very difficult though.
I know it is.
It's very difficult to find.
You don't think you should listen to that song Kim that he wrote?
No, I don't think so.
No, you don't think that one will work?
No. I'm charging up the Switch. My son asked for the iPad. I was like, no.
Can he? Oh, so is he good so how are your children with motion, right? Like, because Austin can stare at a screen in the car, no problem.
Yeah.
Alex, my younger son, gets motion sickness.
No, they're okay. They're okay with that. Jackson gets a little bit of motion sickness, but
I get more motion sickness now as I'm getting older now.
Yeah.
I had it when I was a kid. It went away, and now I realize, like, if I'm not the one driving.
Yeah.
Last week, one of the days we picked up the kids from camp, and Jody was driving so that I could have my laptop on my lap. I had to get work done. We were heading home. I was getting ready for Better's Eye, and I'm like doing it for 5 minutes. I'm like, oh God. And I had to like close my laptop, and I thought I was going to throw up. I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all.
Well, who likes being nauseous?
No, don't like it. No.
It is Moose and Keith with you. We've been doing this and our partners with RealTime Sports. Got to thank them. It's a pick'em game. Play the RealTime Sports Daily Pick'em contest. Set a lineup of player props. Hit them all and win. Baseball, golf, and more. 2 correct picks. Win 3 times your entry. 3 correct picks. 6 times your entry. 4 correct 10 times. 5 correct 20 times. 6 correct picks. 40 times your entry. Go to rtsports.com/alarm. First time depositors get 100% instant match up to $200 with a deposit code of ALARM23. That's ALARM23. Please play responsibly. For a gambling problem, call 1-800 gambler. So let's roll it through it, Keith, today when we're looking at it's MLB Trade Deadline Day, 6 o'clock Eastern time tonight. Spent the better part of the last half hour, took some of your calls as well in terms of what you expect by 6 o'clock this evening, 7 hours from now. What do you like tonight from player prop perspective?
There's like too much that I like today. So I did all my better's eye prep this morning before the show, which obviously coincides with what we're doing here. So let me go. You know what? First and foremost, I think we could play it nice and simple and be one of the guy who could win, comeback player of the year is Christian Yelich. So let's go to the Milwaukee Nationals game. Now, I like what Josiah Gray has done this year, turned himself into an all-star. The year following giving up all the home runs, led the majors in home runs allowed. I would look at two different things for Yelich. If you're more of a fantasy mind and you want to go with the 7.5 fantasy points for Yelich, I think you can do that. I don't necessarily gear towards the fantasy points. I'd rather gear towards the gambling aspect. So I'll take the over 1.5 total bases, which in most books is around -105, which essentially means it's even money. You got to pay a nickel, whatever. 2 or more bases in 4 of his last 6 games. And if you go over the last 35 games, the dude is batting like 350. I'm all in on Yelich.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Tampa Bay Rays game tonight. And I like Zach Eflin to go over 5 strikeouts. You look at him on the season, it's more of a fade of the Yankees as well. He's got 116 Ks, 11-6 on the season, 3.64 ERA. And if you look at his strikeout numbers, he's had 5 or more strikeouts in 3 of his last 5 starts. Had 8 Ks against Baltimore, had it's 4 of his last 5, had 3 of his last 5, had 5 Ks against Atlanta, had 9 Ks against the Philadelphia Phillies. Last time he faced the Yankees was May 14th. He had 9 strikeouts. Give me Eflin tonight over 5 strikeouts for the Tampa Bay Rays.
I like it. Let's go over to the White Sox and the Rangers. Andrew Heaney is on the mound. And when Andrew Heaney is on the mound, that means runs will be scored. He was one of my walk-off winners last week. I took the over 2.5 earned runs allowed. That happened a third of an inning into the game. He gave up the 3 runs. So lost in all of the terribleness, as I make up words, of the Chicago White Sox is that Luis Robert is an absolute masher. And when he's healthy, and he is right now, you can wash, rinse, repeat, put him in lineups. So what RT Sports is giving you right here, it's a fantasy number. So I will dive in. Over 6.5 fantasy points. And I give you this. Heaney's favorite pitch, his best pitch, is a fastball. Luis Robert absolutely crushes fastballs. It is the number 1 pitch that he hits against, by the way. Also in his career against Heaney, 2 for 5 as a home run and a double, 2 for 3 this year against Heaney. And if you're going to be going on the more gambling side of things, I know BetMGM has it. They're the sponsor of Better's Eye. The hits, runs, RBI prop. You can go over 1.5 hits, runs, RBI, which has become my favorite play to give out. It might actually be my walk-off winner today on Better's Eye. So we'll go over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. He's done this 6 of his last 10 games.
All right, I'm going to go to the Angels-Braves game tonight down in Atlanta, 7:20 first pitch. Ronald Acuna Jr., I'm going to go more than 1.5 total bases. Listen, Acuna has been a stud this year. 5 of his last 8 games, he's had 2 total bases or more in those games. 333 on the season, 24 home runs, 61 RBIs. We know about his penchant for stealing bases as well. He's been an unbelievable player, and the Braves have been a locomotive in that National League East. Give me Acuna Jr. tonight, more than 1.5 total bases for the Atlanta Braves.
Acuna burned me yesterday. He was my walk-off winner, but I don't hold grudges. Actually, in that game, I kind of like Austin Riley a little better for the total bases.
There you go.
But RT Sports not giving you that option today. So if you like Riley like I do, 2 for 2 in his career against Sandoval, you might want to go fantasy points or even a total run there. A half a total run is something you could look at. I will then head down to Houston. All right. So the Guardians and the Astros, Yordan Alvarez was one of my top 2 plays yesterday. If you're looking at what Alvarez has done since he's come back from the IL, 5 games, 5-game hitting streak. The hits, runs, RBI prop, again, is something I like over that number. 3 of his last 4 games, has 2 home runs in his last 3 games. So you put it all together for this. Why wouldn't he score a run today against Gavin Williams and the Cleveland Guardians? By the way, lifetime against the Cleveland Guardians, he has 23 total bases in 15 games. That is exactly 1.5 per game. In those hits that he has, 12, 3 are doubles, 3 are home runs. Give me Jordan the over on the runs scored, half a total run.
Okay. I'm going to go to Jose Quintana tonight, starting for the New York Mets. Has had 2 starts this year. He's 0-2, pitching to an okay ERA, on the road in Kansas City, taking on the Royals. Royals as a team this year have struck out 942 times as a team.
Yeah.
I think that's top 5 in Major League Baseball. They've been dreadful. Quintana's strikeout mark tonight is 4. I'm going to go on the idea that you're going to get a good start from Jose Quintana. The Royals are a bad team. They have a penchant for striking out. And I think Jose Quintana is going to go over 4 strikeouts tonight for the New York Mets against the Kansas City Royals.
I'll sneak one more in for you. It's not my strongest play of the day, but if you want to be involved in the game, and I would have no problem with it. I like the number for the Reds and Cubs is where we're going, by the way. Justin Steele, his strikeout number is at 5.5. Very, very attainable. 6 or more strikeouts, 4 of his last 6 starts. And as good as the Reds are, they still do strike out a fair amount. So I think if you wanted to add him into this lineup and you're looking for, more bang for your buck in this lineup, I'd go Justin Steele as well.
I like that. There you have it. It's a fantastic opportunity. We do this each and every week. RealTime Sports, partner with us here at Better Sports Network. Play the RealTime Sports Daily Pick'em contest. We threw out some suggestions for tonight. Set a lineup of player props. Hit them all and win. Baseball, golf, and more. We gave you some baseball pick. 2 correct picks, 3 times your entry. 3 correct 6 times. 4 correct 10 times. You get the idea. Up to 6 correct, you get 40 times your entry. Go to rtsports.com/alarm. First depositors get 100% instant match up to $200 with deposit code ALARM23. That's ALARM23. Please play responsibly. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll come back, take a quick time out. We'll do a little BS detector. We'll do that next. He's Keith Irsay. I'm Mark Malusis. The show is Moose and Keith with you on a Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Breece Hall right now, and I've talked to plenty of high-stakes players, I'm sure you have too, Kev. Had Hall not torn his ACL last year, he might have been the 101 in drafts this year. That's how good he was looking last year, and obviously with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. At the 305, running back 11 behind Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson, right ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee Harris. Your thoughts on him as a mid-third round pick? How have you been attacking him? Have you been getting him at that spot so far this year?
Yeah, if I start out with 2 wide receivers, Breece Hall is right at the top of the queue coming into the third. If I knew he'd be healthy for week 1, I'm still a little.
Well, he'd be going higher than the mid third.
Right. He may go 101. Well, RB1 at least.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know that even if he's healthy in spring and the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I still like if I'm running a team, if I'm the coach, I'm bringing him back slow. Like he's on a pitch count. Like I want him for the end of the season because I got Aaron Rodgers for the playoffs, right? Like even if he's fully healthy, I would work him in slow. But that is actually what you want. Like he's still going to get the high value touches. So yeah, if we know he's healthy, he's a first rounder. So like if he's sitting there in the third, especially when I get 2 wide receivers to start, I'll take Hall all day.
Yeah, it almost makes you think that the uncertainty with Breece Hall has made him unfairly fall too far, right? Like because we're talking about the team here in June. They're still hoping that he's ready for week 1. This is not, we'll see what happens. We're taking it day by day. We're liking how he's coming along. No, they still think by week 1. And the fact that we have that timeline, I think, maybe bumps him up, especially as the drafting season gets deeper and deeper here in July and August. Maybe we start seeing him go up the boards as well.
There you go. Let's do a little BS detector, shall we? We're going to bring in our producer.
Josh
Heather.
Allen, have a great year. Thanks
Peter.
a lot.
Appreciate you. Oh,
For NBC Sports, Bills Camp, this is Peter King. All the best to you.
you still got it?
Yeah, we got Josh, good luck this year. Wish you well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, poor Peter had no idea what was going on. He had no idea what was going on there.
So
No idea.
That was all set up, right?
No, so it like sort of. So as far as I know, so a year ago, Peter King does the interview. Josh Allen goes to put his hand out like this to do the handshake, and Peter King turns to the camera, does his whole goodbye thing, and like doesn't shake Josh's hand. And wait. Camera's about to turn off. Peter King shakes his hand. Josh Allen turns to the camera, says, "Got that right." Exactly a year later, Josh Allen remembered all of it. And Heather, I actually wonder if we could air this one more time.
Yeah, can we play it one more time?
Don't press it yet. And then he gets him back. Ready? Roll it, please.
Josh Allen, have a great year.
Thanks
Thanks
Peter.
a lot.
Appreciate you. Oh,
For NBC Sports, Bills Camp, this is Peter King. All the best to you.
you still got it?
Yeah, we got Josh, good luck this year. Wish you well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you think Peter King knew what Josh Allen was doing there? I don't think so either.
I don't think so either. Because he just dropped the mic and walked away.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
So Josh Allen remembered the fact that he left him hanging.
Yep.
And then a year later,
kept it right there.
Oh.
All right, let's do some BS detector. Let's bring in our
Well, I got to be
producer
honest with
today.
you. There's nothing worse when you put out your hand to shake. And
it's
there.
bad.
Remember we were going through and the dopey conversations we were having during the pandemic where it's like, I think we should get rid of the handshake and we should just do that. No. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with shaking hands. Like, just wash your hands. It's not that big of a deal.
The rough
How about
thing
this?
is when
How about,
one
use a little
person
hand
goes
sanitizer
here, one
when
goes
you
here.
Yeah, when you use the bathroom, wash your hands. When you're making food, wash your hands. Maybe you wear a pair of gloves. The gloves.
Maybe
you see
don't
chefs
bite
wear.
your fingernails.
Yeah, do all those kind of
and
things.
And if you do, then sanitize. Did we just lose his microphone for a second? I think we lost. Moose got so excited about sanitizer and hand washing that we lost Moose's mic. It's gone. Moose, try again one more time for me. Yeah, you're back. Mark, you're back. We hear you.
You hear me?
Yes.
I don't hear you.
Oh my goodness, what is going on? All right, so we got BS detector is coming up. We do promise
What is going on
that.
here?
Here's what we're gonna do.
Oh, I hear you now. I hear you. I
right.
got you.
All
I
right.
got you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. The gremlins are here.
Gremlins.
I was just saying, there's nothing worse than putting your hand out to shake someone's hand and they leave you hanging.
Oh,
it's the worst feeling ever.
Well,
like, really is. You feel alone. You feel on an island. You feel exposed. There's nothing worse than when you go to shake your hand, they don't recognize it or they move on.
And for what we do in life too, have you ever had it happen to you on television?
Sure.
Yeah. And it's almost like you have to decide, am I just going to reach in and almost grab their hand to make them shake my hand? Like, what are we going to do? So I'll tell you an MLB story really quickly.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, I promise. Okay. It wasn't.
No.
Someone I was walking with, and I've told the story before, so you could probably find it, but I'm not, whatever. Someone I was walking with, we are about to cross paths with a former Major League Baseball player whom I have worked with before. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? Do the thing, right? And the person I'm with didn't know handshake, pound, like really didn't know what to do. And it was the most awkward this uncomfortableness where the person that I'm walking with 3 years later, I still talk about it. And he is afraid to see that person because he's like, I don't want to see that person. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Heather Klein is here. We got about 8 or 9 minutes before we have a guest. Let's do a little BS detector. It's no BS. Hey, Heather's on camera today.
Heather, what's going on?
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. All right, let's do a little BS
Thanks for
detector.
putting stuff behind you. Thanks for, really like blink twice if everything's okay.
Yeah, where exactly are
Where?
I had just moved recently, guys, so I haven't put anything up yet.
Yeah.
Oh, but I did want to say this, Keith. You inspired me last week with your AI t-shirt. So I am wearing 93 Western Conference champions, Charles Barkley, Dan.
Look at that. Thunder Dan.
Thunder Dan.
My favorite player is Charles Barkley, so I had to wear this.
I was
you
actually,
inspired me.
I love that you do that because
that.
I was just telling this story to my wife. So when I was, I think either 6 or 7 years old, my parents had brought me to a Knicks game. They're playing against the Philadelphia 76ers, Charles Barkley and the Sixers, right?
Mhm,
And
yeah.
the whole Knicks crowd started chanting, "Barkley sucks," right? I was 6 and I started chanting along, and right away, like both of my parents, like give me the dirtiest look. Like, we don't say that. I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to say that.
No.
Just mimicking what everyone else is doing, right? But that should never be in your mouth anyways. Take my favorite basketball player out of your mouth, Keith Irsay.
So Charles is your guy.
Yes.
Charles is my favorite basketball player ever.
Okay.
All right, let's get to a little BS detector. What do we got here, Heather? What's first up?
All right. Following in the footsteps of singer Lana Del Rey. Do you guys know who Lana Del Rey is?
I've heard the name. I got to be honest, I don't know, but I've heard the name.
Okay. Randy Moss is now slinging dishes at a chicken and donuts restaurant. BS or not?
That sounds like a real story to me. I could see Randy Moss dipping his toe into the food world. Sure.
I think that's I'm not saying I think that's BS.
Keith is actually right. It is not
Whoa.
BS. Randy Moss
so good at this.
Randy Moss opened his own restaurant called Chickaboom in Philly, and he wanted to work a shift and show some brotherly love.
Yeah. If I started a restaurant, I would do a shift. I definitely would. I have ideas for restaurants, by the way. I do. I've had some ideas. If Moose, if you would like to give some financial backing to it,
I have no money, so yeah, I'd love to get involved. I'd love to cook. Yeah, no doubt. You have a restaurant idea?
I have a few restaurant ideas. I'm not putting it out there right now because at some point I might want to actually do this. No, yeah, I have. I had an idea that I've been kicking around for a while. It's just a matter of.
Is it a mix of two different cuisines?
No, it's actually not. It wouldn't be a healthy place at all, but it would be a perfect college-y type of place.
Oh, like a chicken wing, burgers, fries?
I'm not saying this on the air. I'm not giving away my idea.
It's got to be original.
All right, so I do have an original idea that I'm annoyed by. I'm annoyed that it got taken from me, okay? So this was, honestly, it was early on when my wife and I were dating. It was me and her, and I think my mother-in-law at the time were sitting there, and I came up with an idea about meat in a cone, okay?
Ooh.
And they were like, that's disgusting. And I'm like, no, think about it. It's like a waffle cone, and you'd put like chicken in it, or you could put like tacos, like taco meat in it, like then everything's handheld and you can eat it on the go, right? They told me it was the worst idea. They didn't like it. And a couple of years later, there was a restaurant down south that had it, and that is a thing now, meat in cones.
Wow.
I missed my chance to be a millionaire.
Meat and cones. It is successful. There's no doubt about it. All right, what's next, Heather?
Devontae Adams is being traded to the Jets to reunite with former QB Aaron Rodgers.
No, that's a BS. No, that's BS. That's not happening. No, that's not happening. Yeah. No, I know Devontae Adams is not very happy with Josh McDaniels and the Raiders and the path they're going right now. They can't trade him, the Raiders, and they won't.
That is correct.
All right.
Steelers wide receiver George Pickens said in an interview on Monday, "The stuff that I do, I'm the best in the world." Seems awfully confident for a young receiver. BS or no?
I think he's very confident. So I would say that is true. It is not BS.
I'm with Moose. I've heard George Pickens talk before, and he exudes confidence when he speaks. So I will say that is not BS. He did say that.
That is correct. He said, I'm big, I'm fast, low 4.4 speed, catch radius is crazy. So every time I get out on the field, I do kind of play angry because I should get the ball on every play if you just look at the size and the frame.
Yeah.
Definitely
young Mark
oozing
Melissus.
confidence.
Yeah, he reminds me of young Mark Melissus.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, here's your last.
All right, we got one more?
Yes, one more. Kyle Shanahan has said that it will be a split at quarterback this season. Both Trey Lance and Brock Purdy will start at quarterback in a rotational fashion. BS or no?
I think that's BS.
That sounds like BS to me.
Lance stinks.
Go ahead. Tell us, Heather.
BS, a big old BS.
Yeah, there you go. Very nice. Heather, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me.
Can I throw one more out there? All right. So BS or not BS, okay? You've filled in the last 2 weeks for Brian Burns, our producer. Burns is somewhere right now trying to get out of something that he's doing. BS or not BS?
Not BS.
Yeah. Our guy Burns, he's got jury duty.
I know, that's terrible.
Yes.
What do you think the case is? You think he's got a big case?
I hope so.
Go Beach murders. He's on that one.
No,
he's on the Go Beach
wanna
murders.
No, you don't want to be on like a federal case for like 6 months or
Yep.
something.
No. It's something like maybe an armed robbery, something that could be hopefully, dealt with fast, because I know he doesn't want to be there. I think he's trying to show that he's a little insane, that he's not fit for duty.
I mean, he is a little insane.
Maybe
I'll ask you guys, I'll throw one out there on
Okay.
a football variety, right? Giants wide receiver Jalen Hyatt beat Tyreek Hill's speed record and was clocked running 24 miles an hour at Giant camp.
That sounds real to me.
I know that the way especially the way you're wording it, it sounds very, very true.
I'm gonna say, yeah. I'm gonna say yes, he did.
That would be wild, though.
That is true.
Yes.
Wow.
Tyreek Hill ran 23.2 miles an hour. Jalen Hyatt is going to be unbelievable for that. I'll give you a nugget for the Giants for fantasy players is Darren Waller, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be ridiculous in the Giants offense. That's number one. And Jalen Hyatt's going to be a guy that once he gets his experience, the speed that he has is, when you watch it in person, is utterly unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm a Jalen Hyatt guy. He was one of my guys when we did our preview show for CBS, the draft stuff. I was all in on Jalen Hyatt. I was hoping that he would land in the right spot. I think the Giants are a good spot for him.
So he got clocked running 24 miles an hour. The record was Tyreek Hill 23.2 when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I was at 23.1 was my best.
Of course
so
you were.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, you are an athlete. We've established that.
Listen, one of us out of the three of us have run a 4.40 or lower.
Definitely.
We'll come back. Heather, good job with BS Detector.
Thank you,
We'll come
guys.
back. Nick Ferguson's going to join us. We'll get into the Broncos and Sean Payton, talk all things NFL with a great buddy of Keith's, Nick Ferguson, the former defensive back with the Denver Broncos, will join the program. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC, tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well. Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only 2 wide receivers or if you're drafting 3 wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys may be more value because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're drafting, you're in the middle of a draft and you just notice that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player, because typically this player isn't going to drop. The average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy isn't my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song
Great
tonight.
song, great drinking song. There you have.
We're all in the mood for Nick Ferguson
memory.
to join us.
Yeah,
he's
Nick's
got
with
us
us.
feeling all right. Oh, Nick Ferguson. I don't know why I'm continuing to sing. What's up, Nick?
What's going on, brother?
What's going on, guys?
Did you enjoy my singing voice?
No.
That's messed up. You should love my singing voice all the time. Hey, I got a question for you. And
Yes.
Tara, I'm going to start right here. Moose just told us Jalen Hyatt broke Tyreek Hill's miles per hour that he ran. Do you have any idea what the fastest you ever ran was?
447.
437. Do you have any idea what that?
447.
Okay, 447. So
Yes.
what do you think that would be? About 22 miles an hour, maybe 20 in that area?
Enough to chase down the Prius, I guess.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
So Nick, it's all quiet with the Broncos, no?
Yeah, nothing going on.
Nothing going on. Very quiet.
Well, first and foremost, as you can see, I am outside of practice. Inside those walls, the guys are now starting to come out and prepare for warm-up. So it's quiet right now. As they would often say, it's calm before the storm.
Nick, what did you make of everything? Payton's comments about last year and Nathaniel Hackett, then the criticism that the Broncos head coach then received afterward, and then him walking back, not necessarily the comments he made, but saying that he felt, he thought he had his analyst hat back on.
Well, first and foremost, I'm here in Denver, so I know exactly what I saw. And to be totally honest, I really like what Coach Payton said in his comments about Nathaniel Hackett. And the one thing I think everyone is getting, confused on, the idea is that, hey, coaches don't talk about other coaches. I've coached in this league, and I can tell you it happens all the time. The only difference is Sean Payton actually broke the rule by speaking it publicly, but I don't have a problem with what he did. What he was trying to do was he was trying to motivate his team. And I know he's received criticism for that when people saying, well, why do you have to find ways to motivate your team if the guys in the locker room are already geared up to play football? You guys covered a lot of sports. And Keith, Your son plays basketball. A little motivation never hurts. Even the great Michael Jordan used to tell himself lies and create these rivalries to kind of get himself going. So when I look at what Sean Payton is doing, it is something similar to what I've seen his mentor, Bill Parcells, do, and that is use obscure ways to, one, motivate the team, but also poke the bear with the media. Now, everything that he said is true. Everything from what we saw from Russell last year, who received a lot of criticism, but there wasn't a lot of blame that was laid on the shoulders of Nathaniel Hackett. And I'll put it to you this way, guys. Nathaniel Hackett, I had a chance to talk to him. Great guy. I mean, you would want to hang out with him and everything. But as far as being a head coach, they had their struggles, especially when you have 90,000 people in a given stadium counting down the clock.
All right, but let's go further with this, Nick, because I think everything you said is correct. And Moose and I talked about this. I didn't have a problem with what Sean Payton said. I didn't believe it needed to be said to the media, right? And then Payton the next day apologized and kind of walked it back. Do you think that Payton said it to the media on purpose, though?
Yes, I think he did, because the apology he gave was a no apology if you really listen to it. Because he basically said at the end, hey, I said what I said, right? But what he was trying to report was that he shouldn't have said it publicly, but he was thinking it anyway. Because when you look at the offense and what it was last year with Russell Wilson, and yes, Russell had his own issues, but there was a little incompetency associated with what we saw going on. So the only violation for Sean Payton in his mind was the fact that he actually said it out loud.
Nick, the other thing I mentioned to Keith was I'm curious what your take is. Payton will take the villain hat, will wear it. He's had success before, doesn't care. It now takes the focus off of Wilson and puts the focus on Sean Payton. Whereas, Nick, and you living in Denver, being in that area, close to that organization, it was all about Russell Wilson last year.
Yeah, it was all about Russell last year. And I have to say this, both nationally and locally, especially the guys locally, they just turned on it. And they were formulating narratives that had nothing to do with the game of football itself. Because remember one time when the team had a break, he went to Cabo with his wife and he was seen with his computer. And then that was taken to a whole level of criticism. And once again, we're in the media business. Whatever we dish out, fans will absorb like a bounty wet net, right? And that's exactly what they did. And some of the fans started really overly criticizing him, but it's about the play on the field. And once again, if you talk to Russ, he would tell you he needed to be better. But let's look at the issues that the Broncos were dealing with. One, there was no accountability on either side of the ball. Two, they couldn't run the ball well, especially when Javonte Williams went out. And the offensive line wasn't that great. So you can't run, you can't pass, there's no balance. Your quarterback will struggle.
What are your realistic expectations for the Broncos in a very tough division?
Well, I got them right now, guys, winning 10 games with the opportunity to win, maybe 2 more, depending on how things go down the stretch, because we know injuries play a huge part of how successful a team can be in this league. And there are a lot of talented quarterbacks in this league, and a lot of that is going to be determined as far as how successful the Broncos are. Can they get the run game better? And that's the one thing that Sean Payton, when he first came in, the side of the ball he addressed first was the offensive side of the ball with the offensive line. You got Mike McGlinchey at right tackle, a position that the Broncos couldn't fill for years, and they got Ben Powers playing that left guard position. So I'm thinking that this offense is going to be balanced. It's going to look somewhat like a Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan offense, where you run to pass the ball. And if they're effective running the ball, it takes the pressure off of Russell, and so it would take the pressure off any quarterback.
Nick, is there an excitement in that city about the Broncos again this year?
Absolutely. And the reason there is a level of excitement is because of Sean Payton. I know when we look at Sean Payton, his record as far as going to Super Bowls is not up there with some of the best head coaches in the league. But I always remind people, you had the Minnesota Miracle, you had the N'Kobe Roby, hitting the receiver in the head and against the Rams where they didn't go to the Super Bowl. And then you had the Kyle Rudolph push-off in the end zone. If none of those things happen, due to human error, not really calling anyone out, but I'll give you a wink, wink on that one. You know who we're talking about. If there was no human error, then there's a case that Sean Payton goes to 2 more Super Bowls. So the excitement is based on what he could bring here as a head coach and offensive mind, opposed to what the Broncos saw offensively last season.
But then we also get, I guess, tempering of a little excitement too. You got Tim Patrick, he's injured, done for the year. You got KJ Hamler now dealing with the heart issue, waived, possibly will get back with the team. How do you kind of view this team from the skills positions? Even Javonte Williams, we don't 100% know what his deal is going to be.
Well, let's start with Javonte Williams. I was really impressed seeing him in OTAs, knowing as though he had that leg injury, the ACL, LCL, and PCL. As a guy that had 2 knee surgeries myself, I looked at James Palmer and I said, look, is he out here on the field, even though he had a brace on and he was cutting and he was doing it full speed without hesitation? So I said, well, maybe he's further ahead than the team initially alluded to. So he'll be back. They're going to put him on somewhat of a pitch count. But, I mean, they got P. Ryan here to take the pressure off of him. But this offense should be great. Even though you lost Tim Patrick coming back from injury, you still have Marquez Callaway, who spent some time in New Orleans. But Jordan Humphrey, another wide receiver who's familiar with the Sean Payton's offense. You look at Adam Trotman, another New Orleans guy. Chris Manhurts, another New Orleans guy. So if you can actually pick up on what I'm putting down, Sean Payton brought in a lot of guys who were familiar with this offense. So this team has the capability of going empty formation, 3 wide receivers, and 12 personnel to either run the ball or pass the ball. So I think they'll be okay.
Nick, when you look at within the division, I know there's some that have been critical of Herbert out in Los Angeles with the Chargers, right? And unbelievable thrower of the football, but maybe not as good as some analysts make him out to be. What's your take watching Justin Herbert?
I like the guy. He was a quarterback that John Elway was high on, and had he come out, John Elway would have selected him instead of going in the other direction that they did. But this is a guy who has arm talent. And when we talk about quarterbacks in the league, that's the first thing that we talk about. A guy being able to move the ball down the field, and his ball placement is good. But the only problem that I worry about with Herbert and the Chargers is the receivers. I mean, Keenan Allen is an intricate part of what they do. Mike Williams, another big wide receiver. Those guys were injured last year. If they can keep those guys healthy, it should be another productive year for Justin Herbert.
Go to another team that you've been a part of, the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers is there. They bring in a whole bunch of other pieces. And what's your overarching view of the Jets going into this year?
Well, the overarching view is that team is now Aaron Rodgers' team. For whatever power they would not give him in Green Bay, he now has it in New York, because they say that desperate times call for desperate measures. But I say, well, desperate times make people do not so smart things. I'll keep that PC for right now.
You
but
can say desperate things. You can say it.
No, there's something else that goes along with it. Keep that, that I'm going to choose not to say. But it is Aaron Rodgers' team. And they're thinking as though they were one quarterback away. Now they have that piece. And Robert Saleh is going to give Aaron Rodgers whatever he wants to do. He has carte blanche to do whatever he wants to do. And Nathaniel Hackett, man, he's just there, right? He's just a familiar offense for Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers is going to call plays at the line. He's going to check the plays. It's going to be a different style of offense opposed to what he used to deal with back in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur. So this is a team that's going to be real competitive. But let's not mistaken, guys. They're in a division. They're in a conference with a lot of great quarterbacks. So I think it's too early to call the Jets to the Super Bowl, even though some have already predicted that.
You know, Nick, I don't know, and made some news here on the East Coast of Joe Klecko and Darrelle Revis getting into it a little bit about, you know, who's the greatest Jet defensive player of all time. I said this, and Revis was great, and Klecko was great in his time as well. I said this last week, and I'm curious what your take on it is. I think Sauce Gardner, if he stays healthy at his size and what he's able to do at the cornerback spot, you know, really the sky's the limit when you look at that young man, what he was at Cincinnati, what he was year one. like he has the potential to be the greatest Jet defensive player of all time when all is said and done, if he stays healthy and continues on the track that he's on. You agree or disagree?
I'm going to disagree because there are a lot of former Jet defensive players who have played well. I mean, when you look at that New York sack exchange, you can't overlook those guys and Mark Gastineau and what he was able to contribute. So for Sauce to put himself in that conversation, he just can't be a cover guy. He has to show that he can tackle and he can be physical in the run game as well. We know he's a very talented guy. He's long, he can run, but you have to be able to tackle if you want to get my vote for being the greatest New York Jet on the defensive side of the ball.
I want to go to another team that you know very well, that you've been a part of the organization, the 49ers. Obviously, the Purdy Trey Lance thing is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there. How do you think that'll shake out?
Well, it all depends because, once again, we haven't really seen a lot of Trey Lance. And to be totally honest, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan's offense is fit for Trey Lance and his athleticism and the skill set. It's more fit for a guy like Brock Purdy, because the idea is that be consistent, be efficient, hand the ball off, take the throws that the defense gives you. Don't try to squeeze it into tight spaces. But Brock Purdy is the ideal guy. And from what I'm hearing is that elbow is now starting to kind of clear up. He is getting a little more mobility in there. And they believe that Brock Purdy can be that guy of the future. But it's a great problem to have, guys, knowing as though you have 3 guys on your roster who could potentially start for you, 2 of which you already know what they're capable of and who they are. The other, you're still trying to figure that out.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You and Kyle are friends, right? Kyle Shanahan, right?
I'm not going to say we are friends.
You work together. You know each other, right?
We know each other. We know Kyle and I don't have a relationship like you and I. Let's put it that way.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So what was your reaction when he said he's never gotten so many shirtless pictures from another man? Deebo Samuel apparently was sending him shirtless pictures to show him that he was in shape all off season.
Well, you know what? This is a different time and era, and guys do things differently. But I'll say this: Kyle has a great relationship with his players, and this is one of those things where we get a chance to see it in real time, even though we don't want to see it. And Deebo was just trying to show him proof. Hey, man, I was rocked up before and I was in shape. Look at me now. This is going to be a better season. So I don't want to make too much of the situation, but Kyle is a great coach, and the relationship that he has with his players is different than what the norm traditionally is.
Nick, can I ask you, have you ever sent a shirtless photo to a coach?
Never. I've never sent a photo to a coach.
So that was it. So that was you've never cried. When you're at practice, Nick, I love that's a great line. When you're at practice, because we see training camps are open to the public, right? From a player perspective, what are you watching at practice? Like, what do you keep it aside from catching up with guys and being around the team and being around the organization and having kind of those internal conversations, friends with guys? When you're watching practice, what are you keeping an eye on?
Well, for me, I like to sit on top of the hill where it gives us a vantage point, like you're watching the All-22. And for me, I'm watching everything from, guards pulling, running backs in their stance. I'm watching splits by wide receivers. And because I'm a defensive guy, you would think I would predominantly watch the defensive side of the ball. But no, I spend a lot of my time watching the offense to see exactly how they're going to deploy the receivers and how they're going to attack the defense. Because once you watch it and see it from that way, it's going to help you defensively anyway. But the idea is, what is the quarterback watching pre-snap, right? How is it that the offensive linemen are adjusting? Is there a false step? Is it the fact that they're looking at the second level, trying to anticipate the blitz and linebacker and somehow don't block the guy in front of me? So these are the small, intricate things that I'm looking for.
When you got to camp, when you were a player through your NFL career, what were the things that you liked and didn't like about these days?
Well, first, when I came into the league, it was, not being able to sleep in my own bed. I mean, usually you're off at some college 2 to 4 hours away from anything. And NFL teams like to kind of isolate you, to try to get you to focus on football, and that was supposed to be their way of building, the team chemistry. But the college beds, those springs, man, they were murder on your back. You didn't get a good quality sleep. The food was pretty decent, but then you're dealing, with the heat. But this is the summertime, so those would be the things that I was frustrated with. And hey, this is a different NFL now, opposed to when I played. They have 2-a-day practices, and that second practice, guys, that's like a bona fide walkthrough. So if I played in today's NFL, I would have probably played like 14, 16 years. But hey, man, there's no DeLorean, there's no time machine for me.
Yeah, you can't go back. There's no
No, I can't go back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Great movie. Love Back to the Future. Nick, last one for me would be this: is anything when you're looking at kind of the overall complexion of the NFL, a team that that a lot of people are high on, that you have massive concerns about, that you think could struggle this year, just from at the start of camp here, and see how it unfolds going into the regular season?
Well, one team that comes to mind is the Buffalo Bills, right? Because that's a team, they're always riding high when everyone is healthy. But we saw them falter down the stretch last year. Von Miller wasn't in the playoffs, and you could tell that really hurt them. And Josh Allen is a very talented player. I always tell people, I say, look, if you're looking for a fantasy quarterback, you might want to pick up Josh Allen, because they don't hand the ball off to the running back. He is the bona fide running back, and if he were to get injured, it's going to make it real difficult. We still don't know how things have really panned out between he and Stephon Diggs. So that's a team that has a lot of high expectations, as they had over the past couple of years. But can they really get it and make it across the finish line? That would all depends on how healthy they are.
Last time we had you on the show, we were talking about the Denver Nuggets as your NBA champs. The city still buzzing at all about the Nuggets, or like once Broncos camp breaks, Nuggets get put to the back burner?
Well, for right now, the Nuggets are on the back burner. I mean, you see the T-shirts in the stores and fans are wearing them. But right now, man, it's all about football, the expectations for the Broncos. Can they live up to those expectations? What to expect from Sean Payton? And could this be the final year, or be the year where the Broncos actually break their playoff drought? So it's a lot of excitement here, because every team is going through the same thing. Hope springs eternal. Everyone is 0-0 at this point until they have to start playing games. But everyone is kind of happy right now until they are unhappy. But the idea is to keep everyone happy here in the Mile High City.
By the way, Nick, at the ESPYs, did I really need to see LeBron announcing that he was coming back to play? I mean, he was never retiring.
He was with his family. It was beautiful.
He was never going to retire. That was
a
that was after getting smoked by Denver. That's why he threw it out there, to take the attention off him losing to the Denver Nuggets.
Lucky for you all, that day is not now. I mean, listen, it was a beautiful moment. His family looked amazing. It was nice. Oh, wait, you weren't talking to me. You were talking to Nick. My bad. I'm sorry.
I was talking to Nick.
Well, here it is. The Four Letter Network did a great job of once again promoting themselves and Keith's favorite athlete. But yeah, I mean, we all knew that he was coming back. The idea was to play with his son at some point. And just think about it this way. LeBron has an ego just like all of us. To know that you were swept. That's right. You were swept.
Oh, it hurt.
Get out the shot back or whatever you want to, but they were swept. And LeBron, I mean, what happened to LeBron? I know he's been in the league for a long period of time.
He played great.
He turned into a jump shooter. The same thing happened.
They lost by single digits in every single game. The closest to anybody came to beating the Nuggets. Yeah. They got swept, though.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm a Miami Heat fan. And I remember the same game plan LeBron implemented against the Denver Nuggets, he implemented against Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks, where he wouldn't get in the paint, he wouldn't get on the block, he turned into a jump shooter. So he was that same person with the Lakers, which made people raise a lot of questions as far as, has his age truly caught up with him? But that's water under the bridge, Keith, because guess what? The Denver Nuggets swept the Lakers and LeBron, and they are now NBA champs. So whatever you want to say, you have no comeback to that one, my friend.
That's true.
No, I'm all in on the Denver Nuggets. I love Jamal Murray. I love Jokic. I love that team. I'm very happy for the city. I'm happy for all of them. I'm happy for you too. But if 28, 7-7 means that you're not the same player anymore, then LeBron James is just about as good as everybody can. By the way, Bryce James, I don't know if you're catching any of these clips. He's playing for Team Drifty right now. There's a thing going on right now. Team Drifty versus Rod Wave. Okay?
Hey, Keith, I hate to do this, but practice is starting. I got to go.
Oh, you're a punk.
Nick,
I got to go.
We love you, Nick. Thank you.
Later, Nick.
Yes.
He's a punk.
Nick's the
Get
best.
him off our
Exactly
screens.
right. There you go.
Love
I
you.
got to
Nick.
go to practice. Got to go to
All
practice.
right.
See
All
you,
right.
man. That's awesome. That's exactly right. I wish when Keith gets into his LeBron kids.
Are you watching any of Bryce James? Have you
not,
seen any of the Bryce James highlights? It's
I have
fun.
not.
And it really is. It's a thing right now. So there's this Rod Wave elite team, right? That they wanted Bryce to play on their AAU circuit, like at EYBL and all that kind of stuff. And Bryce spurned them and decided to go with Team Drifty. And it's like this big, huge like thing. The guy who runs the original team, whatever their name is, he's like the Rod Wave elite team is like he will rue the day, like just this bad thing. Oh, and by the way, Bryce James is like crushing people, and they're all
he's
going
great.
out there winning. Yeah,
he's great.
You see, you got to see the highlight. He does one. He catches one here. He throws a fake over the kid's head, and literally the kid goes like this. He turns around like that, and then Bryce just hits a jump shot. It was great.
That's great.
Oh, the James gang.
What a show. Heather, great job.
Woo!
Nick Ferguson, fantastic.
Are we done?
for
That's
joining
it?
us.
No,
We're
let's do
done.
another
We're
2
out
hours.
of time.
Let's do 2 more hours.
We are flat out of time.
All right.
We'll be back again next Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, we will.
Thanks for everybody in the chat session. Keith, love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Great haircut. Enjoy the ride down Jersey Shore.
Thank you. See you next Tuesday at 10.